Good morning from the farmer's garden. I'm one of the farmers and this is my garden. So today I'm going to be working on some weeding. A lot of the weeding that we do has to be done by hand, especially depending on the size of the plants. And so this is what we call our back garden. And this is the area where we have different kinds of corn and peas and beans planted. This is a new garden area. We just broke ground on it this spring, and so it has lots of weed seeds. What happens is as weeds drop their seeds, not all of them will sprout. Grasses and things break down, compost basically on the ground. Those seeds get buried, dirt washes, they get buried, and they're underground. And they haven't all sprouted, and so when you till, you bring those seeds back up to the top. And because this is a new field, we had a lot of those seeds to bring to the top. So I'm going to turn the camera around and let you see what's here. And then I'm going to have to pull these weeds by hand. So I'm mostly going to be going for the goat weed because of the height of the goat weed. My plan here is to just get the height knocked back so that the plants can go ahead and reach that sunlight and not be shaded out. I'm mainly going to be focused on weeding pumpkins this morning. But depending on how much of that I get done before it's too hot, I may also be pulling some weeds in the sweet corn. So let me go ahead and turn this around and let you see what's here. Alright, so there's the weeds in the pumpkins. You can see we've already kind of pulled some of the goat weeds out over here. We still have lots of the grasses in there. We can't really do just a ton about the grasses. Again, I could pull them all, but weeding is definitely my most time-consuming activity, and it does not pay me more necessarily, except for in the cases of when the weeds get so bad that they just choke out the plants entirely. Obviously, that affects how much I get paid. But for the most part, we're just going to see if we can get these where they're not shaded out, where they're not crowded out by these goat weeds, and see what we can do with them. I did want to show you, these are called pick-a-pie pumpkins. And we do have at least one baby pumpkin on there. I'm sure there are more. Oh, yep, there's one right down there. So they are making, and we're going to get them weeded out so that they can do better. So I'm going to turn off the camera for a while, get some work done, and then show you the progress. Okay, I'm about halfway done. Whoop, hole. About halfway done weeding the pumpkins. I did decide to go ahead and take out the grasses too because they were so thick. So these pick-a-pie pumpkins are looking good. The little Indian dolls I did not get a good stand on, which I knew that. You could see 1, 2, 3 over there. So those aren't looking as good, but I'm going to take a little water break, sit in the shade for a second before I start this next part. Like I said, I did decide to go ahead and get most of the grasses out as well, so it's a little more work than just pulling the goat weeds. The goat weeds actually come up pretty easy. It's the grass that's a pain. But that'll get it cleaned out, and that'll get it hopefully growing a little better and take off and cover some of those weeds so that we don't have to mess with this again, hopefully. You'll also notice that I'm not going to weed this row right here. This was a skipped row. I may come back and get it later. But for today, I'm not going to worry about it. So this row was skipped, the one that's still weeds all the way down. This row was planted. This row in the middle was skipped. And this row was planted. And that was just to give them a little more room to spread out, which we should have done with the watermelons, but we didn't. We gave them about 12 foot of space, thought that was enough, and it was not. Anyways, water break time, and then I'll get back after it. Okay. I'm still pulling weeds. I have got part of this shaded end cleared out now. And now I am about to try to move the vines that have grown outside the garden back into the garden. Sometimes this is easier said than done. And these vines will probably look really sad and pitiful tomorrow. Well, this afternoon and tomorrow, because they tend to get all offended if you try to move them. So we're going to see if we can kind of swing some of these from over here back in so that they don't get run over the next time Brandon runs through with the brush hog. Okay, I am calling that done for the day. I may come out another day and get it slightly cleaner, but I think that'll do for now. So on this third row in, right over here, I did kind of abort mission there in the middle. I just took out the goat weeds. As I said at the beginning of the video, the only way that this job, pulling weeds, makes me money is if I save a plant from dying, if it's about to be choked out by the weeds. And I was too late on that row. Most of those were gone. You can see there's like 4 down on that end, but most of them were gone. So I just cleaned it out enough for these guys to be healthier and to grow that direction. I picked up the vines, moved them over in here, and I will be gathering up some of these weeds to take to the chickens. I want to show you, if I can find it, we have some squash bugs and some stink bugs in the garden. They've scampered off into the shade for the most part. Here's a plant that's got some. Okay, so these guys are a favorite food for chickens, and they're not good for my plant. So because we sell to the public, we cannot have chickens in our garden. We're technically not big enough to have to fall under all the laws and regulations, but because we're planning to grow this and get it big enough that we would need to follow those laws and regulations, we're trying to just go ahead and do that from the start. And one of the food safety rules is no livestock in the garden. Fair enough, right? But for those of you who just have a garden at home and just have a few chickens, let your chickens in your garden, okay? I know you're worried that your chickens will eat the vegetables. My experience is that your loss of vegetables from the chickens pecking at it will be lower than your loss from the bugs. The chickens will go in and they'll take out those bugs, and that will be their main mission. They'll peck at a few things, they'll eat some peas, maybe peck a couple squash, but for the most part, they're after those bugs. So if you just have a little garden and you just have some backyard hens, that's your hint for the day. Let those chickens in the garden and let them do some of the bug cleanup for you. All right, I'm going to gather up some of these weeds and take them to the chickens and then go sit in the shade for a minute. All right, so that's it for the day. I've brought the weeds up here. The chickens are going to go through them. I'm going to go take a little break before I start picking. But that is just a little peek at the weeding that we did. I hope you enjoyed your little visit to the farm today. I hope you learned something. Be sure and like and subscribe. Share our videos with your friends and come back when you can stay longer.